Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli, and we've mentioned time and time again on this show how close to 200,000 Georgians are living with aging parents. At one point, they're going to outlive their parents and they're going to need somewhere to go. So we start looking around the metro. Where can families start thinking about placing their young adults? And I ran across a great organization facility called Annandale Village. Please welcome to the show Kayce Pearce. She's the Chief Development and Marketing Director over at Annandale Village. Hi, Kayce. How are you today?
Hey, Gina, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here. Everyone I talk to about Annandale Village loves it. So tell me, what is Annandale Village? What's it all about?
Yeah, so Annandale Village is a nonprofit organization. We're located in Swanee, Georgia. We were founded in 1969, so we've been around for a really long time. And our mission is that we provide progressive life assistance to adults with developmental disabilities or acquired brain injuries, which is a really fancy way of saying that we can serve individuals at all levels of care throughout an entire lifetime.
So like 18 and up, right?
Yes, yes. So we serve adults 18 or older. We serve adults in the community. So adults can live in their own apartment in the community with support from Annandale. We have independent living on our campus, semi-independent living, and assisted living, as well as a skilled nursing center. So what that helps us do is provide care really throughout an individual's lifetime.
So explain to me what the care would look like if someone is living independently. How does Annandale come in and help that individual? Like, do they come by every morning and say, "Hey, did you put on deodorant?" Or like, what?
No, yeah, it's a great question. So we have different levels of support if you're living in the community. So we can serve up to 12 hours per week per individual. So we have staff, Annandale staff, that are specifically, their job is to support our adults in the community. And that looks different for every single person. So every person that comes in is assessed. And so it's an assessment to look at, their life skills, their social skills, their just skills in general. And then we'll build a curriculum based on that assessment. And so we have staff that come, transport to work, will come and help with social situations, maybe financial, how to, coming and helping with your finances and how to pay bills. And it really, no pun intended, runs the spectrum. So we can support adults really with mild to moderate developmental disabilities in the community really, really well. We're serving 9 individuals right now in the community.
So they're living independently, and Annandale pops in every day to mention some of those services. Now, residential living, what does that look like for a young adult or an aging adult, really? Because 18 to life, you might have them from 18 till, well, they expire. So.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have an individual on our campus right now who has lived in Annandale for 46 years.
Wow.
And he has lived at every single level of care. So he's a perfect example. He came in pretty independent. This particular individual has a brain injury. So it should be noted, 11% of the people that are served at Annandale have an acquired brain injury. 89% have a developmental or intellectual disability. So might be something that your listeners may be interested in knowing. So Bill, for example, he came in and he lived very independently, but as he aged, he needed more support. So he was able to move through the continuum. He started independently, then he moved into the assisted living and is now in our skilled nursing home. But still, our goal is for our residents to live as independently as possible in the least restrictive environment. So it's really interesting. I think people should know this, is that we have a meeting every single month. We call it a watch list meeting, where we look and we say, okay, who's living on our campus, maybe in an independent setting, but they've been falling more, or their behaviors are maybe getting a little bit more challenging, or whatever that might look like. And we assess that individual. We use data-driven results, and we say, okay, Kayce, unfortunately, is starting to age and she's starting to fall a lot. We cannot support her as much in this independent setting. but perhaps she should go into a semi-independent cottage where there's a little bit more oversight. So we do that with every single person on our campus, which is something I'm really proud of as an employee of Annandale, that I get to be a part of making sure people live in the least restrictive environment.
I wonder what Bill would say has been, since he's been there for 46 years, what his favorite and least favorite thing about Annandale Village is. Do you know? Have you sat with Bill? Have you asked him these questions? I want to know.
I have not asked him that question, but one of the things I love about Bill's story is Bill has a girlfriend actually on campus. They've been together for a long time. They were in the assisted living together. But when Bill moved to skilled nursing center, his girlfriend did not, because she's still fairly independent, right? So she's in the assisted living. She doesn't need skilled nursing level of care. But if Bill had lived anywhere else, he and his girlfriend would have had to separate. They would not have been able to be together. But because he lives at Annandale, he can stroll on over to the assisted living whenever he wants to and visit his girlfriend. And it's just, that's one of many stories. I don't know. To me, it's very special that they can stay together and even though they're in different levels of care.
I love this. Kayce Pearce, the Chief Development and Marketing Officer over at Annandale Village. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about cost, wait list, and Medicare and Medicaid too. Stay with me.
Hi, I'm Lear Gilmars. Thanks to our friends at
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Kayce Pearce, the Chief Development and Marketing Director over at Annandale Village. I can only imagine, because there aren't too many communities like this, Kayce, that there must be, because there's a demand for this all over, not just cities in Atlanta, but all across the country and really, quite honestly, across the world. So what's the wait list? What's the admission process like? How much does this cost? I know our viewers are going to want to know all of those things.
Yes, absolutely. So it should be, I always love to note this, Annandale is only one of 3 organizations in the entire United States that does what we do, and that's offer this full continuum of care. There's another organization in Texas that does similar work, and then another organization in Chicago. So we're one of only 3. We're the only one in the Southeast. We serve adults right now from 27 different states and 2 countries. So we are not just a Metro Atlanta organization. We're not just a state of Georgia organization. Really, we are a national, if not international, organization. We also have day programs. We haven't really talked about that yet, but we do have 2 day programs. We have a Medicaid waiver funded program, a community access program, and then we have a private pay day program. Those 2 programs are obviously serving the Metro Atlanta area.
Right.
So you asked me about wait lists. The demand for our services has never been greater than it is right now. Every single level of care on our campus is at a wait list. Some of those wait lists are longer. Some of them may be a year. Some of them may be 5 years plus. Our nursing home, for example, it has a pretty lengthy waiting list. And unfortunately, that waiting list is not always linear. There's a lot of things that go into it. Do we have the staff to serve somebody's needs if they have a high care needs? Are they, we might have a female bed open and there may be, 5 men on the wait list and et cetera. So there's a lot that goes into that wait list. We always try to encourage our families that are looking for services is to start looking now.
Yes.
Maybe get on a wait list, fill out that application, get on the wait list. And if they find services somewhere else in the future, or if Annandale's not the right fit down the road or whatever, then they can make that decision then. But oftentimes we hear time and time again people needing services and needing them immediately.
And they waited too late to get on a wait list. Everyone has a wait list. It's not Annandale Village. It's every therapy, every doctor practice, everything has a wait list these days.
It is.
Because the demand and the need is there. So I can only see, that you have an opportunity for expansion here. Whether it's not right there on the facility and the grounds itself, maybe in the community, little satellites Annandales can pop up, correct? Or maybe?
That's one of the great things about our independent living program. It's called All In. So liveallin.org, for your listeners that may want to check it out. It's a little plug there. It's really exciting because that's where we really can serve people, right? Like there's not just a certain amount of rooms that are available. People that are living in the community, they're choosing where they live. So they may want to live in an apartment, they may want to live in a townhouse, they may want to live in Swanee, but they may want to live in East Atlanta. Doesn't matter. We want to serve those individuals. So if people can live independently or they desire to live independently, we want to help independently in the community. We want to help them with those skills, and we want to help them with their housing and with and when I say housing, I mean searching for housing and looking for an appropriate house. So that's an area that we're really trying to grow. In terms of expansion, we're in the middle of a 5-year strategic plan where we're looking at, I think the goal is actually explore opportunities for growth. And so we're in that exploration phase right now where we're trying to figure out, could we replicate Annandale services somewhere else in the community? Or could we partner? Is there another organization potentially that we could partner with that's doing, great work, and we could be a complement to that as well? So we're definitely exploring those opportunities and looking at ways that we can serve more people.
I love the concept of this, and you mentioned that the day program, or one of the day programs, is Medicaid waiver, but this is a private kind of pay situation for residents. Do you mind discussing about how much people can expect to pay? Because, I know that people can continue to work. Residents can work a little bit there, but maybe they can kind of subsidize what they're paying out of pocket?
Yeah. So we are, for the most part, a private pay organization. Our nursing home is funded through Medicare and Medicaid, Medicare. So the folks that are living in our nursing home are not paying privately. Same with folks that are in our Medicaid waiver day program. Some of the folks that are in our Medicaid waiver day program can utilize those fundings towards their residential services as well.
Okay.
So 26 individuals are currently in our waiver funded program, 13 of which also live here residentially. So there are options.
Do you have a caseworker that can sit down with the families and kind of go through all of this before? I mean, they have to have everything, all the T's, crossed and I's dotted.
Yes, one of the things I'm realizing and learning, I've been at Annandale for 4 years, and every day I feel like I learn something new. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. Our admissions team is very well versed in just resources. So and you had asked earlier about the admissions process, we have an online inquiry form, which is usually what we kind of encourage people to do first, is fill out that inquiry form because it goes straight into our database, and so we kind of have a record of that initially. Or pick up the phone and call us. And so we'll kind of do like an over-the-phone assessment kind of first, just kind of basic information. And then we'll invite that individual out for a tour, that family out for a tour. And then there's there's an assessment, there's a whole process that folks have to go through. But our admissions team is a wealth of resources. So, if there's somebody that we don't feel like we're the right fit or we can't serve that individual, we have we have a resource guide that we will send to families. It'll say, okay, here's some day programs in the area. Here's some attorneys that may be able to help you. Here's some financial planners. Here's some folks that can help you with the waiver or help you navigate just all that's out there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but our admissions team is very well versed in those resources that are out there.
And if somebody was paying out of pocket, Kayce, what could people expect to spend if they were living on the property 24/7?
Yeah, okay. So before I answer your question, which I will, I promise I'm going to answer it, but I want your listeners to understand how we are funded here at Annandale. We're a nonprofit, and about 80% of our budget comes from what we call fees for service. And then the other is fundraise in the community. That's where I come in. Me and my team is that we're going out and we're trying to keep fees and costs as low as possible for our families. So we only charge about 80% of the actual cost per individual per year. It depends on the level of setting. Our assisted living is, I believe, our most expensive level of care because it requires 24/7 oversight. And then there's varying degrees, but it is about $3,000 to $4,000 per month to live residentially at Annandale. And again, it depends on what level of care you're in, but that's about what families can expect. That's all inclusive. That includes all meals. That includes everything here at Annandale.
Yeah, and for sure, with parents who need to make preparations and that cognitive impairment, they can't just send them to just someplace. And you don't want to give them to the state, because that could look really bad. So to start looking into things, and like you said earlier, and I love that, it's never too early to get on a wait list, especially if you can foresee what's happening in 5-10 years. And I'm not saying the wait lists are that long, but in some instances they are a year long or whatnot. And I love it. I love the model and really the fact that you're going in community too. I want to talk a little bit about those vocational programs that you have for young adults there too. Stay with me, Kayce.
I'm Lyra Gillenwaters. Thanks for checking out this episode of Life with the Spectrum. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll always see the newest episodes when they come out.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, Kayce Pearce, who is the Chief Developmental and Marketing Officer over at Annandale Village. Kayce, you have some vocational programs there that you're helping young adults with. Are those just for the people that are living in the community, like on the residence or in the residence, I should say? Or are you using those vocational programs out with the people that are independently living as well?
Yeah, both. So the easy answer is both. We have about 80 individuals right now that are working either on Annandale's campus or in the community. And that's folks that live residentially at Annandale, as well as, to your point, folks that are living out in the community. So one of our guys that's living in the community, he comes to Annandale every day and he works in food services, for example. He has a passion for cooking. He has just a passion for food. And so he helps with our food services department. We have another young lady who lives in the community who works in our nursing home, and she works in housekeeping at our nursing home. She also works at Publix as well. So she kind of has a dual role where she's working in the community as well as on Annandale's campus. Annandale has a workshop on our campus, which is one of my favorite things to show. Whenever I do a tour, I love bringing people by the workshop because it is full. And we call our folks villagers, and the villagers love working in the workshop. Oftentimes, it's usually fulfillment.
What do they make?
Yeah, so it's usually fulfillment based. We have several organizations that we partner with. I like to tell people as well, our villagers did all the bag stuffing for the Peachtree Road Race this last year. So if anybody ran the Peachtree and got their bag, that was fulfilled by an Annandale villager. So think that kind of work. We work with an organization called Automation Direct, where there's like nuts and bolts, and our folks are screwing the nuts and bolts in, and they love it. They find a lot of fulfillment in that. It's funny, you walk into the workshop and there's music going, and it's also a social opportunity for our villagers, right? They're gaining important vocational skills while also exercising those social muscles. And then we have about 20 to 30 individuals that are working in the community as well. Tzatziki's, Publix, Kroger, Goodwill, organizations like that employ our folks. And then we have a few folks that work on Annandale's campus in janitorial or housekeeping type services. So one of our villagers, for example, does a lot of the janitorial work at our admin office, and I love it. It's an opportunity to get to chat with her, and she finds a lot of fulfillment with it as well. And I have to give a quick shout out to Vicki Thomas, who's our vocational services director. She is so passionate about putting our villagers with the right job. And oftentimes too, it starts as volunteer work. We had an individual who started volunteering at an animal shelter, and then that turned into a full-time job. So as they gain their skills, they may be able to work and to grow in their career. We have another guy that started working at Mitsubishi HVAC in a warehouse. He was working for a staffing agency. So he was staffed through this agency. Well, Mitsubishi was so happy with his work that they ended up hiring him on full time. And now he's a
I love it.
with benefits and a 401k and all that stuff. And it just gives him so much fulfillment that he has that opportunity.
Everybody deserves to wake up with a purpose. And it doesn't matter what kind of job you go to, but that sense of purpose gets you up. It's a driving force. And like you said, once you master a skill, you move on. And I love the fact that these places of employment are actually, taking them from volunteer work to part-time to full-time with all of the benefits too. That's got to give the parents of those young adults like just an overwhelming, and for you too, just an overwhelmingly sense of a heartwarming feeling, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to a parent a few weeks ago, and we were talking about his son who is a relatively newer villager that's living in Annandale and doing really great. And his son loves working in the workshop. And this particular father told me that every week or 2 weeks, whenever he gets his paycheck, he takes a picture of his paycheck and sends it to his dad because he's so proud of just this work that he's doing and that he's earning his own money and he loves it. And yeah, I don't know. I have more story. I could just tell you stories on this.
Rattle
podcast.
Off the feel-good stories.
Yes.
Kayce, how can people find Annandale Village online?
Yes, super easy, annandale.org. And we have a new and improved website, so hopefully your folks love it. That's for our services on campus. And then we have a separate website, which is liveallin.org, and that's for our community-based independent living program.
So you can check those both out. And is there a link off of one to the other too, just in case?
There is, yes.
And
Absolutely.
Are you on socials? Any socials out there that you want to tell people about?
We are, yes. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Just type in Annandale Village and we should pop up. We also have quite the LinkedIn following as well. So if folks are looking for jobs and you're in the Suwannee area or Gwinnett area, check us out as well on LinkedIn.
Everyone that I talk to that comes across Annandale Village has good things to say. So I think you guys have a great model and you're doing the right thing by people. You're being a force for good. And it sounds like you just love your job and you walk away with some really cool stories to tell, right?
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think I told you when we talked on the phone that, Annandale's in Suwannee. I live in Dunwoody. And so for your listeners that know anything about the Atlanta area, Dunwoody and Suwannee are not close.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to make this work. I live in Dunwoody. I have 2 small kids. Like, I'm never going to be able to make this work. And Annandale has an archway that kind of, you kind of drive under. And I drove under the arch. And our villagers are walking around, they're out there on campus. And I was passing all of these just happy, just joyful people as I was coming in for my interview. And I just immediately felt like I've got to figure out a way to work here. I loved it before I even, knew what I loved,
Right. Those are the best jobs. That's when you're doing what makes you happy. And really, at the end of the day, you want to do what makes you happy. It makes other people happy too. Kayce Pearce, thank you so much for joining the program today. And remember, everyone needs to look up annandale.org, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I loved chatting with you and I love sharing about Annandale. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Sounds like Annandale Village has something for everyone there. The day programs, the respite programs, the on-site living, off-site living, the vocational programs, even the workshop. It sounds like a whole lot of fun, right? And if you are an aging parent with an adult, that you're going to have to start thinking about, doing something with them when you're not here. Make sure you call them. Get on a wait list. As Kayce mentioned, there's only 3 locations in the country right now that have this model. So as we continue to live this crazy journey called life, it wouldn't be surprising to me if more and more states start to adopt this model and we start getting these opportunities to families across the country, not just here in Georgia or in Texas or Chicago, like Kayce had mentioned. Annandale.org. Check them out and make sure you get on the wait list. It's never too early to get on a wait list, right? Thank you so much for plugging into Life with the Spectrum. It is my mission in 2023 to connect you with tools, resources, organizations, and foundations, people who are making a difference, not just in the world of autism, but with really any diagnoses out there. When it comes to special needs, we've got you covered. And until next time, we live life with the Spectrum. See ya.